Okay. Welcome everyone. There's some more people coming in. Hello, do come in.
Hi. Hi.
Hello. There's supposed to be 77 people here. Oops. There's supposed to be 77 people here, so I suppose some more people are coming in. I think there's quite a few people who can't come because we moved the time. Anyway, we have a recording, so that's for the people who can't be here. Please note that what we do here is recorded, so everything you say can be used against you. Be careful. Right. So today, this is our first lecture in the Phonetics II crash course. What I'm trying to do is put everything together in 3 or 4 lessons. I'm not sure whether next week's lecture is going to be cancelled or not. I'll let you know in due time. In that case, we'll only have 3. We only need 3 lectures, really. Yeah? I'll give you enough practice in between, so that should help you as well. I'll be available for your questions as well. If you want to find me, I'm in the teacher's room on the 1st floor. So there we go. Now you're here because you didn't pass Phonetics II, of course. Yeah? So here are some tips how to pass Phonetics II. How can you pass Phonetics II? I realize there are quite a few people who find it hard to study the book, or who don't study the book at all. If you don't study the book, of course, that's not very wise. Maybe you find it hard to study the book. Make sure you understand it. One tip to make sure you understand the book is read it as if you were a teacher who needs to teach a subject. So then you need to understand absolutely everything. Yeah. So make sure when you read the book, you understand what it says. If you don't understand the book, it's going to be very hard to pass the test. Yeah. Another reason why people fail to pass on assimilation, for example, is because you don't know the consonant labels that you should have studied in year 1. And you maybe did, but you forgot. I made a Quizlet for the consonant labels, which you can find on natschool. Yeah, so there's a link on natschool to a Quizlet for the consonant labels. Of course, attend these lectures or watch the recordings if you can't be here. You can come round for questions, and that should be helpful as well. Then last of all, of course, phonetics is a lifestyle. Now this is kind of a joke, but it's there's truth in it as well. If you try and understand what we do here, you should also try and sort of see it in other aspects of life, which sounds maybe complicated. But if we talk about assimilation, what happens to me when I talk about assimilation, I'm teaching another subject, maybe grammar, and I'm talking in English, and I hear myself using assimilation all the time. All the time, assimilation. Yeah? So try and see these things in other contexts as well. When you're reading a text, will there be assimilation in here? So make sure you apply what you learn in other contexts as well. That always helps. Okay. So far, how to pass Phonetics II. When I do this, I'm going to say something important. No. Okay, assimilation and elision. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'll give you a lecture on assimilation and elision. I'll give you a lecture on intonation. Possibly something on word stress, even though I'm not sure if I need to say so much about word stress. And I'm going to teach a lecture on the foreign language part. What I'm trying to do is put the essentials in one lecture, so to make sure you grasp at least the basic material. Right. Of course you know what I'm talking about. I'll teach you like you don't know it yet. Yeah? So I treat you, for the moment, I treat you as people who don't know anything about assimilation or elision. Okay, so there's two words here in which the pronunciation is different from the spelling. What's different in these words? I'll let you think about this for a few seconds. How is the pronunciation in these words different from the spelling? Think about it for a few seconds. I'll ask you later. Okay, Coral? Any idea? No idea. Wendy?
You don't pronounce the th sound. Months.
Months. Yeah, that's correct. You don't pronounce the th sound. It's months. Usher?
Gunpowder, you write O, but you don't say powder, you say powder.
That's indeed correct. That wasn't what I was looking for, but that's correct. Yeah, you say powder, not powder. Yeah, another?
The N becomes an M.
Ah, the N becomes an M. That's correct. The N in Nicholas becomes an M in Maria. Gunpowder. We don't say gunpowder, we say gunpowder, right? We don't say months. That's very complicated to say. If you have problems with months, this is a day of your life, you don't need to say months. You can say months, yeah? Gunpowder and months. So what's happening here, the pronunciation is very different from the spelling. Right? We write a th sound, but we don't say it. And we write an n, but we don't pronounce it. We change it into an m. First one is what we call assimilation. Gunpowder. Gunpowder becomes gunpowder. That's called assimilation. One sound changes into another sound. Assimilation. Because it's influenced by another sound. It's influenced by a third sound. More details about that later. That's called assimilation. Second one is elision. Months becomes months. Months. Yeah? Months. So this is called elision. The th sound, the th sound, fortis dental fricative, is elided. Elided means deleted. Okay, now you know this, of course. Yeah, this is not the most difficult part yet. But how do we identify assimilation? I'll come back to elision later on. We'll talk about assimilation first, because that's the most important part. How do you identify assimilation? Now here are a few words and phrases which either include assimilation or do not include assimilation, do have assimilation or don't have assimilation. I'd like you to look at those words for a few minutes, try and figure out which words have assimilation, if so, what exactly happens, or which words do not have assimilation. You're allowed to talk about this. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Bad guys is bad guys. The D preceding G becomes the G. So bad guys.
All those
Allows. Yeah. L.
black guys,
right? Becomes a Olives.
That's lagging
Lagging. Yes, lagging
You've
assimilation.
pancakes is leading assimilation, bad guys leading assimilation.
Olives is lagging.
Although that's not just
What?
although
All of the time. Reciprocal is when those two become one. Two phonemes influence each other. These are the best notes die ik ooit in mijn leven heb gemaakt. That's the point. It was only the language rules I must have for assimilation.
Right. I'm not going to ask you for the answers. For the sake of time, I'm going to show you the answers. Ball pen has no assimilation. Asha, you have a question about that?
Is ball pen elided?
What would be elided in ball pen?
So the L, if
No, nothing is elided in ball pen. Ball pen has got what we call a dark L.
Basement it is.
L which is not so clear.
yeah, that's what
Yeah? So the L in lake, for example, is much more audible than the L in ball pen. Yeah? So that's not elided, it's a different kind of L.
But basement is, right?
Basement, what
No.
kind of elision or what kind of
Basement, illusion of T?
Basement. No, the T is pronounced. Yeah, we don't say basement, we say basement. Yeah, so nothing happens in either ball pen or basement. Smell.
Yeah. If you write that down on the test, don't you have to mention the leading assimilation?
That comes later. Yeah? I'll tell you later what you need to write down in the test. Right, so ball pen has no assimilation. Some bays, what happens here is the alveolar N. Make sure you know the three-term labels. Make sure you understand how the consonant works. Otherwise, describing this becomes very hard. Yeah? Alveolar N becomes bilabial M. Why? Why do you say sunbathe rather than sunbathe? Because your brain anticipates, knows, expects it's a B. There's a B going to come. Yeah? B is bilabial. For B, you use both your lips. Now, it's complicated to say sunbathe. You need to think about that. Yeah? Your brain doesn't want that. And your muscles aren't used to it. That's why your brain anticipates there's a B coming, a bilabial sound coming. I'll change the previous sound into a bilabial as well, because that makes it much easier. That's the kind of process that goes on in your head. And that's why you say sunbathe rather than sunbathe. Yeah? Now, if you don't do that, you're making it too difficult for yourself. If you're trying to say sunbathe, you're making it too difficult for yourself. So try and change your pronunciation accordingly. Pancakes. We don't say pancakes, we say pancakes. So the alveolar N changes to a velar sound. Both are nasal, but the place of assimilation, the place of articulation is different. It's alveolar. Remember the little ridge behind your teeth? Alveolar. That's where you touch with your tongue. Becomes velar, the back of the mouth. The back of the tongue touches the back of the mouth. That sound. Why? Because the following sound is also velar. It's hard to say pancakes. You need to move your tongue too much. And that's why your brain decides to change the alveolar sound to a velar sound. Yeah, so the assimilates into pancakes. Bad guys. We don't say bad guys. That's too difficult. Again here, your brain anticipates that a velar sound is coming, so it changes the alveolar sound into a velar sound as well. Alveolar d becomes velar g. Bad guys.
But that's only when it's a compound word, right? Because if you say that's bad, guys, you say that's bad.
Depends whether there's a whether there's a pause between bad and guys. Now, if there's a pause, like a comma, that's bad, guys. But that's not what you'd necessarily say. You'd say that's bad, guys. So I think in either case it'd be assimilation.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you have a really long pause between bad and guys, then you can think about it and you can change the position of your tongue. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Yeah. Basement, as I said, has no assimilation, no elision. All those becomes all those. All those, yeah? You don't say all those. All those people. You say all those people. All those people. The dental z sound here, dental fricative, voice dental fricative, becomes an alveolar sound. Here, in this case, two things change. Voiced dental fricative becomes voiced alveolar lateral. So the place and manner change here due to the preceding L. So again here, this is different from the rest as well. So here your brain doesn't anticipate that something is coming. Your brain remembers, I just pronounced an alveolar sound. I don't want to move my tongue too far. I'll pronounce another alveolar sound. So, how do you write this down on the test? We want you to understand what happens. Yeah? If you don't understand what you're doing, you're not above the language. That's why we teach you this. We want you to understand what happens when you speak. When you want to teach others, you need to understand, you need to be able to analyze their language, their pronunciation. So, the first three are all leading assimilation of place. Why place? The only thing that changes here is not the manner of articulation, but the place of articulation. In neither of these three, a fricative changes to a plosive or whatever, yeah, or a fricative to an approximant. What happens here? The place of assimilation, alveolar to velar, alveolar to bilabial, changes. As you can see, in all three cases, it's also an alveolar sound that changes. So, assimilation of place, leading assimilation of place, is the most common kind of assimilation in English. Even if you don't understand assimilation, I'm going to make a joke, by the way. If you don't understand assimilation, if you write down leading assimilation of place everywhere on the test, you might do quite well, actually. No, yeah? But this is the most common, most frequent type of assimilation. Leading assimilation of place. Also, leading assimilation of place in final alveolar sounds. So in most cases, it will also be an alveolar sound that changes to something else. All of this is in the book. All these patterns are described in the book. So look them up. So for assimilation in English, very many cases you'll be looking for leading assimilation of place, and it will be an alveolar sound that changes. There's something in the front of your mouth. Alveolar. All those is kind of a rare one. Even though the expression isn't rare, this is lagging assimilation of place and manner. So here not only the place changes, but the manner as well. Manner is how you say something. So those, th is a fricative. Th. Fricative, yeah? The air, there's friction in your mouth. The air slides through. It changes to a lateral, which is an L, which is really an approximant, a kind of approximant, where not much friction takes place at all. It's almost like a vowel. So the way you pronounce a sound is radically different from the z and l. Very different. So here the manner of pronunciation, the manner of articulation changes as well. So this is lagging assimilation of place and manner. It's lagging because your brain doesn't anticipate, doesn't think forward, but it remembers, it thinks backwards. Yeah? That's why it's called lagging assimilation. In other words, the sound that's assimilated, the sound that changes, is changed because of the preceding sound. The z is changed because of the L, which comes before. In all the other cases, the sound is changed because of the following sound. Yeah? The sound that comes after. But this is not very common in English. You'll find it, but not as much as the leading assimilation of place. Any questions so far? Yes.
On the test, you have to do the write down the 3-term labels, right? Of all.
This will be enough on the test.
Seriously?
Yeah, you have to say what happens, but you don't need to say that z is also voiced. It might be helpful for you if you do that. I'd advise you to, because then you have a clearer picture. Then you also know it's not energy assimilation. Yeah? So I'd advise you on the test to write down the 3 labels. What is necessary is only the labels that change. Yeah? If only place changes, you really only have to write down place. But to make sure that you don't forget something, I'd advise you to write down the entire thing. So for sunbathe, maybe just on a piece of scrap paper, write down voiced alveolar nasal becomes voiced bilabial nasal. So if you have these 3-term labels next to each other, voiced bilabial, voiced alveolar nasal next to voiced bilabial nasal, you immediately see the thing that changes is not voiced, not nasal, but alveolar to bilabial. Yeah? And that shows you its assimilation of place. Any other questions?
But if you write everything down, then the chances are higher that you get, you know.
You've just got to do it right.
No, I mean if you say, for example, that something is voiced while it is unvoiced.
I'm not sure if that's going to be marked wrong. It might be marked wrong. I don't know.
That's what I mean. So
yeah. So maybe do it on a piece of scrap paper, and then yeah. Okay. Now assimilation in English. For some of you, you might be able to hear this, to identify this in your own speech. Am I saying sunbathe or am I saying sunbathe? For many of you, this will not be the case. You'll find it really hard to hear it in your own speech. So what I advise you to do is learn the patterns by heart on pages 125 and 126. It's not so much. It's easy to learn by heart. You just cram it. Once you understand that, it'll become easier to detect it. Yeah? So one thing that always changes, for example, an alveolar nasal, as in Nicholas, changes into as in Maria. when it's followed by a bilabial sound like b, p, or another m. If you know that, then whenever you see an expression or a word in which a n is followed by a bilabial sound, then you know this is going to change. Yeah? So if you understand the patterns, then it would be much easier to detect assimilation. So learn the patterns by heart. Then what you do is try and come up with as many expressions in which assimilation might occur. So if you say, if you know that the changes to a when it's followed by a bilabial sound, then try and come up with a list of words in which this happens. So for example, the example we had was sunbathe changes to sunbathe. Another one, sorry?
Bad guys.
But that's a different one. I want one with a
Sunglasses.
sunglasses, but then the changes to yeah. Some bed, yeah. Some bed. Sorry.
Third part.
Third part is also assimilation, yeah. Now, if you know the patterns, then you then it's much easier to detect it, to find it, yeah. So this is just learning by heart. And once you've learned something by heart, it might also become easier to understand it. Now, which patterns will you be looking for in English? Most frequently, as I said, leading assimilation of place. Almost never assimilation of energy. This does happen, but only in unstressed syllables. Yeah. Question.
Will we not probably get at least one or maximum of one assimilation of energy on the test, or is that?
I have no idea, and I can't say, and I'm not going to, what you get on the test, yeah?
No, not like that, but I just mean that they would put it just at least one, so that we recognize it and that we are.
Might we put one instance of assimilation of energy on the test?
Yeah.
Possibly, possibly not. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the test looks like. And if I did, then I wasn't going to say. You just need to be able to recognize it. It's in the book. It's expressions like used to and have to. Yeah. Just be able to recognize it. That's fine. Yeah.
Assimilation of energy takes place mostly with like the error analysis, right?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That comes later. Assimilation of energy is done a lot by Dutch speakers. Yeah, because it's a feature of Dutch. That comes later. For now, if you're looking for assimilation in English, most frequently leading assimilation of place. That doesn't mean that others might not occur in the test. They will, of course. But you don't necessarily look for assimilation of energy in correct instances of assimilation in English. Yeah? Right, here's an exercise. Try and find occurrences of assimilation in this short text and describe what happens. Question first from Asha.
Oh no, I don't.
Okay, I'll come to you later. Yeah? So, say, spend about 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this text. Try and find different instances of assimilation. I haven't counted them, so I don't know how many. And describe what happens. I'll be walking around to help you. Okay. It's time to get started again.
God damn it.
Summer? Right. I told you to find instances of assimilation in this text. What I'll do again is I'll show you where it happens. There we go. Right. I'll just read this out to you, then I'll explain what exactly happens here. So, hey, for the sake of the recording, can we quiet down a bit? Thank you. He said that. We don't say he said that, even though I understand why you want to think that in said that either assimilation or addition happens. That's a Dutch mistake, typical Dutch mistake. He said that years later, that years becomes that cheers. Another possibility here is a glottal stop in that, and then years. He said that years. Yeah. If you don't have the glottal stop, then you have assimilation. On the basis becomes on the basis. On the basis of their findings, scientists concluded becomes concluded, alveolar to velar. Stone men becomes stone men. 2 M's. So alveolar changes to bilabial.
That's a tricky one because of the E.
Next one, which is a tricky one.
The stone man, because you have an E.
Yeah,
and
but it's
maybe
Yeah, but you
Sound.
don't pronounce the E in stone, do you?
It's about
Yeah.
the sound.
Yeah. Steward Brightman.
Steward.
Steward Brightman. Because of the B in Brightman, the D in Steward changes to a B as well. So again, alveolar to bilabial. Brightman becomes Brightman.
With a P.
Yeah?
With Becca, right? No.
Not a B, right?
Sorry?
Not a B, a bird. A bird.
Bernard.
Plosive P.
And Bernard. Right.
He has a P.
Sorry, no, a P.
Oh.
Bright. Yeah, the P in Peter. Yeah. Yeah. This is one thing which I'll talk about later as well. Energy assimilation in English almost never happens. So, fortis sounds generally change to fortis sounds and leaner sounds to leaner sounds. So, Brightman change is fortis, changes to a fortis Brightman. Yeah? Could probably, the D changes to a B, could probably not have been made, changes to been made. Been made. You have a question?
Yes. Why is beliefs not concluded?
Which one?
Believes the first
Believes
sentence
the.
of the second
Believes
part.
the. You might be right.
I am.
Yeah. Believes the.
Believes
Believes here.
Yeah. It becomes
On the island,
believes,
believes yeah. This is lagging assimilation.
Yeah.
Believes the statutes. Yep, lagging assimilation. Yeah, very good. Well spotted.
Do that in the test, okay?
Yeah, you'll get extra points in the test. Which I'm not marking, so easy for me to say so. So, how do you write this down on the test? Here we go. First one is the most complicated one. Yeah, because this is reciprocal assimilation. Several things happen at the same time. So that years, the alveolar plosive t changes in a palatal alveolar affricate ch due to the following palatal y. Now the palatal approximant y also changes to the palatal alveolar affricate ch. So 2 sounds here merge together into one new sound. Yeah? It's not like they just merge together into t-y. That doesn't happen. Because the t is plosive and becomes affricate. Yeah? The y is an approximant and changes into an affricate. So 2 things happen at the same time here. 2 sounds change into one new sound because of each other. And that's what we call reciprocal assimilation of place and manner in this case. Yunus.
Couldn't just say alveolar plosive T and palatal J of the F becomes palatal alveolar affricate ch.
And then you need to, yeah, you can say that,
Yeah.
but then you need to say because of
Seeding alveolar T.
because of each other. Yeah?
Oh yeah. Because this is confusing me.
Okay, yeah, this is the complete description. but you can say they both change into palato-alveolar affricate ch. Yeah? I'll put this PowerPoint on natschool, by the way, so you can have another look at it. Which doesn't mean you shouldn't take notes. Note-taking helps to store things into your memory. Asha.
But I don't really get it. So when is it reciprocal? When
Reciprocal means two sounds influence each other. Yeah? So when two things do something to each other, that's reciprocal. And reciprocal here is the t in that influences the y, right? In years. But it also happens the other way around. The y in years influences the t in that. So there's a reciprocal influence here. Yeah? So
For example,
it's not just that two sounds are merged together, they're both assimilated, both change into one new sound. Yeah? Because t and y is something different from ch. Yeah? It's not like you say t you say ch, which is a different sound. Yeah.
The text will be transcribed.
Yeah, on the test it'll be
text.
transcribed. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's the first one. Another question from Uthman.
If you'd like to transcribe that, then you have only one ch, right? No.
Yeah.
So then it will be one word. That ch.
That cheers. Yeah.
Except that
Yeah.
there will be no space.
No space. No. Yeah. If you were asked to transcribe it, you'd transcribe that cheers. Yeah. On the, what happens here is lagging assimilation of place and manner. This is similar to all those. Lagging assimilation happens a lot with the voice dental fricative z, as in the and those. On the becomes on the. This is how you write it down on the test. Dental fricative z changes to alveolar nasal due to preceding velar. Now, again here, it'd be wise to, I'd advise you to write down the full labels because that might help you to see the change, to visualize the change.
But if
Then, yeah,
I'm sorry.
Asha?
If you forget to write due to proceeding, will you lose a point?
I think so.
I'm not sure how the division of points works, but you have to write down why
Yeah.
it happens.
Because that's actually explaining why
Yeah,
it occurs.
Exactly.
So
It explains. We want you to explain what happens and why. Yeah.
But if you write only, for example, alveolar N due to preceding velar N without the nasal, then it's incorrect, or is it still correct?
That would be incorrect if the nasal changes to something else. Yeah.
Okay.
that's why it
Because
says
then you
write-
forget one part of the change.
write everything.
We want you to give a complete description of the change. Yeah. Yes, Bill.
Due to preceding alveolar, you mean, right?
Yeah. Due to preceding velar. Yeah.
Velar?
Because. No. Alveolar. Thank you. That's a mistake. Due to preceding alveolar. Yeah.
Koning.
This is a special. This is a velar. That's too complicated for you still.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Crushed it.
Maybe that's why you didn't pass the test as well. I'm sorry, no. That's a joke. That's how you can avoid that's how you can talk around your own mistakes as a teacher. So this is a practical lesson. Stonemen. Alveolar N changes to bilabial M due to following bilabial M. So again, this is leading assimilation of place. Yeah. Another leading assimilation of place, bin created becomes bing created. Stuart Brightman, two things happen at the same time here, or in one name. Steward, the d changes to a b, and the t changes to a p, both leading assimilation of place. Again, you can see here, most of the instances are leading assimilation of place. So that's something very common.
If you're not sure,
in English.
just write that down.
Sorry?
If you're not sure,
Just write that down.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's like schwa in your transcription. If you don't know, schwa,
Without
that's
you
schwa.
schwa.
Yeah.
Schwader.
Is reciprocal the same as energy, as in it's almost never occurring, or is it
I wouldn't say
reciprocal
almost
was
never,
in
but
the
it's
test.
quite rare. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was in the test.
Yeah,
The
it might be in the
reciprocal.
text because it's not rare in the case that you say that kind of thing, right? That cheers or could you, for example. Yeah. Could probably again leading assimilation of place. Could changes to could. Still with me? Yeah. So far, assimilation. Any questions about assimilation? No? Yeah? So again, make sure you learn the three-term labels, the consonant labels by heart. If you don't know the labels, you can't do this. You won't understand this. And remember, the labels are all about understanding what happens in your mouth, how your tongue works in your mouth. If I say an S, what happens? The tip of my tongue touches the ridge just behind my teeth, the alveolar ridge. I can actually feel it. I can look in the mirror and see it. Yeah? That's why S is called alveolar. Yeah? That's the sort of thing you need to understand. Try and get to grips with it. If you don't understand this, it becomes much harder to remember it, to memorize it. Right. So we'll move on to Dutch mistakes regarding assimilation. Now, as I said earlier on, in Dutch, for Dutch speakers, energy assimilation will be very common. Why? Because we do that in Dutch. Listen to me pronouncing these words. I'll pronounce the Dutch words as a Dutch speaker would, and then as an English speaker would. So a Dutch speaker would say noodzaak, koudvuur, gifbeker, kopbal. Yeah? An English speaker trying to speak Dutch would say noodzaak, koudvuur, gifbeker, kopbal. You hear the difference? A Dutch speaker would say noodzaak, noodzaak. English person would say noodzaak. Yeah? In Dutch you wouldn't say noodzaak. You say noodzaak. So you change the d into a t. That's why we have problems with D and T in spelling, right? It's not based on pronunciation, but because we don't pronounce a D at the end of a word. We don't say would, we say what. So we don't say noodzaak, we say noodzaak. But an English person doesn't do that. It's one of the main pronunciation mistakes for Dutch speakers, to devoice, so make them voiceless sounds at the end of a word. Koudvuur, koudvuur. I change the D to a T. English person would say koudevuur. Yeah? Again, also, because I devoice the D, I say noot. I also devoice the Z in Dutch. Yeah, so I don't say noodzaak, I say noodzaak. So I also change the Z into a S. Yeah. So if I write this down in Dutch, I can't write anything down here, but I write down noot, N-O-O-T, S-A-A-K, noodzaak. Yeah, that's how you say it. English people don't do that. So in Dutch we tend to devoice sounds. Energy assimilation. Fortis becomes lenis and lenis becomes fortis. Yeah? Gifbeker. Gifbeker. Gifbeker.
Gifbeker.
Gifbeker. Yeah, what happens here? Gifbeker, the opposite happens here. So in Dutch we don't say gifbeker, unless we really emphasize it maybe, but we tend to say gifbeker. So the
Becomes
changes
a-
to a v. That's the opposite. Gifbeker. Why? Because the b is voiced. We use our voice for the b. So the preceding sound, the sound before it, also becomes voiced. That's what we do in Dutch. English person doesn't do that. British person would say gifbeker. Gifbeker. Yeah? Same for, so I'm confusing my Dutch pronunciation and English pronunciation now. So I do the rest of this lecture in a Dutch accent. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Okay, in Dutch I say kopbal, kopbal, so 2 B's, or even 1 B, kopbal, right? Kopbal. British person says kopbal. Yeah.
Cupball.
Kopbal. Consequently, when a Dutch person tries to speak English and isn't aware of this, he'll say not obvious, but he'll say obvious. This is so obvious, you know. Yeah, so we devoice the B to a P, op, and then we change the V into an F. Obvious. Obvious. Yeah, so that's obvious.
Also, the S is very strong.
Yeah, obvious.
Yeah,
Obvious.
advice.
Advice?
Advice.
Can I give you some advice?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Like that.
So we devoice the D in Dutch, and then we change the V into an F. Advice. Advice. English person would say advice. Advice. Football, we say football, 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 yeah? Football. We change the T into a D. Football. Football. Yeah? Or we just skip it. Football. Right?
Later.
Let's play football. Milk bottle becomes milk bottle. So the k changes to a g.
Milk bottle, that's
Milk
solution,
bottle.
right?
Milk bottle. English person say milk bottle. Milk bottle. Yeah?
Milk.
You don't need to be ashamed of your tendency to do this because almost every Dutch speaker has a tendency to do this. Yeah? I hear it all the time. So don't worry. It might be good for you to be aware of this so you can change this. If you want to sound more British, then definitely try and change this. Milk bottle and not milk bottle. So because we do energy assimilation in Dutch all the time, assimilation, we also transfer it to English when we speak English. That's why it's one of the main mistakes when it comes to pronunciation, connected speech in the speech of Dutch people. Any questions so far? No?
Basically, think of Louis van Gaal.
Yeah, think of Louis van Gaal or just Mark Rutte.
Oh yeah.
Because Louis van Gaal, his grammar is also not as it should be. I can't think of a Dutch. What would he say? What would Louis van Gaal say?
Not very good.
Not very good. Yeah, maybe. What do you say in Dutch? Not optimal, maybe. Niet optimaal. Right, so Dutch mistakes, look for energy assimilation. Now, here's the text again, and this time I did include a transcription. Whereas I didn't do that for the first one, I don't know why. So this is what it will look like on the test, a text with a transcription. Look for Dutch mistakes when it comes to assimilation. Again, about 10 minutes, maybe less, because it shouldn't be so hard to find. Okay, let's discuss this. What's the matter? Are you knetter? Des te better. Stupid, hè? Right, sorry, I'm getting carried away. Here are the answers. That was too early. Julien, can we quiet down, please?
you.
Yeah.
If we assimilate it, it's gonna be all there.
Yeah.
But in the Dutch transcription is still the.
Yeah.
Is that not then a Dutch?
No.
mistake?
Maybe technically I should have included all le in the transcription, but I'm never sure, because if I do, then maybe it becomes too difficult, because then you identify it as assimilation and then you think maybe this is wrong.
Okay.
So that's why I try just to include incorrect assimilations in here. Yeah?
So this is not a typical Dutch mistake that
No.
they say the and all the.
Not typically, no.
Oh, okay.
But how should I know that it is not a typical mistake, because it is a mistake
Would
according to the rules of learning?
it be easier for you if we included the
Yes.
Yes.
correct assimilations as well?
Basically,
Okay.
you taught us that all the becomes all
All
the,
the,
so in
yeah.
our minds, okay, that's how it's supposed
Yeah.
to be.
Okay.
So
That's
not
good.
in my mind then.
Yeah. Good tip.
All the time.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 3 instances here. A long nab on the sofa. Much better. Exhausted. Now, what happens here? I said energy assimilation is a thing to look for, so here are 3 instances of energy assimilation. After a long nab on. Dutch has a tendency to voice sounds between 2 vowels. For example, we normally would say bus in Dutch, right? With a s sound. Bus. If you want to say the bus is late, you don't say the bus is laat, you say the bus is laat. De bus is laat. Ja? Het huis is wel oké. Huis, het huis is wel oké. So the s sound changes to a z sound between 2 vowels. The bus is laat. We have the same tendency when we speak English. After a long nap on the sofa becomes after a long nap on the sofa. Yeah? After a long nap on the sofa. That's a Dutch tendency. To devoice sounds between 2 vowels. I'll show you how you write that down in the test. Same goes for, not exactly the same, but this is also voicing with much better. Much better. Here, the following B, the B sound, which is voiced, influences the previous sound, the preceding sound. The T, ch sound changes to a J sound. Much better. Much better. How are you? Much better. Yeah? We tend to say much better rather than much. Much better. Yeah? Also much rather than much. My uncle is Dutch. Thank you very much. Right, exhausted is pronounced ig, not ik. Exhausted. A g and a z sound. Exhausted. Dutch people tend to change it into exhausted. Yeah, so the g is devoiced to ik, and then the z is changed to an s. Exhausted. Yeah? I'll show you how that should be written down on the test. Fortis bilabial plosive changes to leadis, but between 2 vowels. That's what you can say. This is called, this is an important term, intervocalic assimilation of energy. Intervocalic means inter, between, vocalic vowels, between 2 vowels.
Where can we find this?
You might, I don't know.
Yeah, but where can we find this?
Where?
Is there an article or something on that?
About intervocalic assimilation.
Yes.
No.
About Dutch assimilation.
No, about
This one was crossed out, I believe, in the PowerPoint when it was.
Oh, so maybe you don't need to know it for the test, but this PowerPoint will be on natschool.
Okay.
Yeah?
Because you included the articles about the common language mistakes. Is this a part of that article? Or
No. Oh, I see.
you know what I mean? 'Cause
On
we-
natschool, there's a reader on assimilation.
Yeah.
Yeah. If, that's required reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on natschool, there's a reading called Additional Notes on Assimilation and Elision or something. That's about Dutch. If you read that, it says exactly what I've said just now. Yeah. Much better. Fortis ch changes to leanis j due to following leanis b. This is leading assimilation of energy. Exhausted leanis z changes to fortis s because of preceding fortis k. This is lagging assimilation of energy. Questions? Okay. What's next? Yeah? Any?
Oh, why is there an
Asterisk.
Yeah.
Asterisk
For
is a term.
fortis.
Asterisk generally means incorrect. In linguistics, an asterisk is used to indicate this is incorrect. So the
Oh, yeah.
fortis k is wrong. It should be g, but we Dutch people tend to say ik zoosted rather than ig zoosted. Okay, I'm going to go to the next. Oh, another question.
So are majority of Dutch mistakes in English due to the energy?
Yeah, if it's assimilation mistakes, it's energy. You'll be looking for energy assimilation. Yeah. Right. Now we've talked about assimilation. We've talked about Dutch assimilation. All that's left now is elision, and that's the last thing we'll be talking about. Then we're done. Yeah. So here's the text again that I showed you for assimilation. Can you try and look for instances of elision? I haven't explained when it occurs. I'd like you to try and find out where do you think does it occur. Yeah? Again, about 10 minutes or so. Okay. I'll give you the answers. Before I do that, you should realize that we make a distinction between historical elision and assimilation and contemporary elision and assimilation. Contemporary refers to now. Yeah? So for instance, when we look at a word like
Island.
I'm not too sure about island.
Island.
Maybe I think in the past it used to be pronounced Island, but I'm pretty sure about anything with a G. So Brightman, for example, would be pronounced Brichtman in the Middle Ages. Yeah? Highly would be pronounced Hichli.
Can you say it again?
Maybe I'm overdoing it, yeah. So this is called historical elision. The G, the sound was elided. Yeah, so Hichli became Heichli, and Heichli became highly. Don't laugh at me, Miriam. I'm trying to teach a serious lesson. This is very sad. Right, so make a distinction between historical and contemporary, yeah? So when the spelling has changed the same, but the pronunciation generally, if the normal pronunciation now has changed from the spelling, then we're talking about historical elision or historical assimilation. Yeah? Think of cupboard, for example. Cupboard. It's now just cupboard. Yeah? That's historical elision.
Yeah, but what's the temporary?
Contemporary is what we're looking for now, and that's this. So there's not so many. There may be more. Maybe I overlooked some. On the island must have been created in a highly civilized society. So the D in island is not pronounced. The D in civilized is not pronounced either. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why later on. One of the becomes one of the. Archaeologists is impossible to pronounce, so we say archaeologists with a long S. And advanced technology is also impossible to pronounce, we say advanced technology, which is skip the D. Yeah?
Scientists?
Scientists as well, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Scientists. The T is elided. Yes.
Isn't there illusion in must have? Like
Must have been. Yes, you're quite right. The H in have is elided as well. Must have been. Yeah. That's elision. Yeah. The H in have is also elided. Same goes for have here. Not have been. Another one?
no, I'm not sure. But if you say could, you don't say could.
That's historical elision. Cool. Yeah.
And without?
What do you mean without?
Without? The, well, the spelling is TH.
Which spelling is TH? Where?
Without.
Oh, without.
Oh.
The word without.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what you say, right? Without.
But
Without the.
is there
But here, the final
Yeah.
T is not elided. That's a Dutch mistake. Without the.
Okay.
Yeah? That's a Dutch mistake. We don't do that in English.
So
Yeah.
you say without.
Without, yeah.
but how if I get this on a test, how should I know
Yeah.
good is historical and like how
That's
can you
easy.
distinguish?
Think about what the normal pronunciation is. Yeah? If it belongs to the normal pronunciation in isolation, if you pronounce a word on its own, like cupboard, we never say cupboard. Yeah? Say cupboard. We never say heichli or hichli. Yeah? Because then Miriam would have a laughing fit all the time. That would be very hard, wouldn't it? Yeah, so we never say, another one, we never say scientists or something. I'm not sure whether that's historical elision. That's not the normal pronunciation. Yeah? So in those cases, we speak of historical elision.
If it's isolated.
If in normal pronunciation we pronounce something in isolation, like we say civilized, but when we speak in connected speech, we suddenly leave out the D. Then we're talking about contemporary elision. Yes? Any other questions? Yeah.
In the exam, when we have to find elisions, are we specifically only looking for the contemporary elision or both?
You'll be looking for contemporary elision unless it's specifically specified. That's nice. That's specifically specified, specifically mentioned on the test.
It's always
That you need to look for historical elision. Yeah?
It's always on the beginning of the test.
Ah, from now on, it's hidden somewhere else. No longer at the beginning of the test. Because Asha has spilled the beans. Okay. Where does elision happen? These are the three most common examples. There are more. Those are in the book. These are the three most important ones. Most importantly, most frequently, it's the t and the d between two consonants. So if we go back, you see scientists, the t is between two consonants, s and s. It's very hard to pronounce. We say scientists. Island must. It's hard to pronounce. It's between two consonants. That's why it's elided. Island must. Civilized society, the d is elided because it's between two consonants. Yes.
If it was between a consonant and a vowel, for example, the island pan, then you would
Then it's not
pronounce
elided.
the
Then you
D.
leave
There's
it.
no elision. Okay.
Yes. Another question.
What about said that?
Ah, that's a Dutch mistake. Said that. Yeah. Dutch people tend to say that because that's what we do. That's what we do in Dutch. Yeah. Not done in English.
Okay.
the H in weak forms of function words. For example, the H in have here and here. Not have been and must have been. Yeah? Must have been, not have been. Of. We don't say have, we say of in a weak form. So the H beginning is elided.
Oh, but you didn't.
I forgot that. I overlooked it.
Okay.
Yeah. The V in of before the. So of those becomes other, those. Yeah? Many of the people. Yeah? Many of those. Okay. We're running out of time. We only have 4 minutes left. So, see what comes next. I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
By now, do you feel like this?
No.
Or like this?
Halfway.
Okay. This
I
help?
feel like I still
Halfway
should
between.
do the
Can we have 1 more minute before I'm done? You have a question, Lisana?
No, I feel like I'm the light bulb that still needs to be screwed.
Ah, screwed in. Can I help you screw you in? Right. If you have any more questions, feel free to come to me. I'm in the teacher's room. You can always ask me questions, or any of the other teachers who teach with phonetics. This is the last thing I'm going to say. How can you practice? I thought about extra practice. You can have another look at the exercises I put in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint will be on natschool. Also, make sure you learn the patterns by heart that are in the book. Yeah? The assimilation patterns, I mean. What you could do is try and make a list of words and phrases in which assimilation happens. And then see if that works. If you're not sure, if you see me somewhere, just ask me. Yeah? Listen maybe to Mark Rutte's English, or Louis van Gaal, or Jan-Peter Balkenende. They do Dutch assimilation mistakes all the time. I don't mind. I think it's fine because they're Dutch. But you can hear it in their speech all the time. So if you go on YouTube and search for Mark Rutte Europe or something, or Mark Rutte's speech or whatever, then you'll find a lot of his English speeches. Yeah, and then try and listen for those typical Dutch mistakes. Yeah? Any final questions? Okay, then we're done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. I'm not sure whether that's next week. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I go.